welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Carty, Tierney. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
I'm really excited to get into this conversation. We were just talking before I hit record. I was like, how's my sound? Because I'm in my new apartment in Charlotte and I have no furniture. So it's a little maybe echoey in here, but I think we'll get that fixed in editing.
It sounds fine.
Fine is a four-letter word.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am curious to know what were the values and beliefs that were instilled in you as you were growing up that helped contribute to who you are today?
Well, I think the biggest one is both my parents were very hard workers. My father in the corporate world and my mom as a homemaker really instilled a work ethic in all five of us. There were five Carty kids, and we learned very early to, when you say you're going to do something, do it. If you make a mistake, own up to it and work hard to be better. And we did that, all five of us, all through school, and then as we progressed into our careers and our home lives.
Yeah. Okay. Were you given the belief that you could do whatever you wanted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave all of us is if you want to be whatever it is. And at one point, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. My mom and dad said, "You can be a brain surgeon." Turns out I didn't really want to be a brain surgeon, but when you're six,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wait. So, how long did you want to be a brain surgeon?
I think that was for a year, and then I wanted to be a
Okay.
pediatrician, and
Okay.
that's what I was gonna go to. I was gonna go to med school. I started my first semester in college in biology, and had to do a lab that I didn't quite agree with, and I realized if I don't agree with a freshman level biology lab, there may be other things that I don't agree with. So I went business.
Yeah. Okay. How did you make the choice to go to business from that? Like it's like
Well,
a complete left turn.
it is. It is. I actually started programming computers when I was 9. And so I was always fascinated with computers. I learned BASIC on my neighbor's VIC-20. And because I was always fascinated and I always gravitated towards those types of classes and stuff, there was a program in our business school called Business Analysis and Research, or we called it BANA, was the four-letter word for it. And that took my love of computers because it was basically management information systems, and really drove me to want to be like I can do other things that are more people focused because I
Hmm.
didn't want to be a computer science major. I didn't want to only focus on computers. So I did the the next best route. If you want to play with computers and you like people, you go into the business school and take MIS.
Okay. All right. Very cool. And then what did you do with that when you got out into the real world?
I was a programmer. So all the things I said, I didn't want to do computer science because I focused on that. But I was a consulting programmer, so I actually worked with various companies as a consultant and built software for them. And then went to work for another software company and was a consultant there where I was a problem solver. I would go in and solve problems for the customers.
Yeah, that's really cool because when you think like when people think about computer programmers, they think that person like who's kind of a hermit sits behind the computer, doesn't really want to talk to people. And so you
Hmm.
were able to combine those two abilities of having um like wanting to be around people and having the technical knowledge.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And then I met my husband.
In in your job, like through was
Yeah,
like in your office or like what?
we were we were on a project together. He worked for a consulting company and I worked for the software company. And we met and 10 weeks later we were engaged and a year and a half later we
What?
got married.
10 weeks.
Yes,
Wow.
10 weeks.
That
Not even 10
that's
weeks. It was like
amazing.
9 weeks and 6 days.
That is amazing to me because I don't know. I guess when you are sure, then you are
Yep.
sure.
Yep. And it's we've been married 25 years, so it all worked out.
Yeah. And then I'm just looking at my notes from our first conversation, and you had a whole career, and then you were was it unexpectedly laid off? Or no, you
No, I
oh
wasn't laid off.
sorry, I'm
No,
reading.
I
He was laid
decided,
off. Sorry, I'm getting
yeah,
confused and ahead of myself.
yeah.
Also, you became a stay-at-home mom.
I was a stay-at-home mom. Yep. When we had our first daughter, I stayed at home. I had 4 kids in 5 years, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. And then my husband, unexpectedly lost his job, and we decided that it was probably a good time for me to get back in the workforce. And I had actually had the CEO of the first company I ever worked with, ever worked for when I got out of college. He called me and said, I'm experimenting with these non-traditional labor models. Do you want to come work for me for 20 hours a week, super casual, blah, blah, blah. And I said, sure. And then within a month, I was actually working 40 hours a week. And then I led a team of recruiters for a while. And so it was a good way to get back in, and the timing was really good.
Yeah,
But
because you
then
were
2008 hit.
okay. I was going to say because
Yeah.
you were probably ready to get back to talking to adults.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to your fine as a four-letter word. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I volunteered all the time. I was the president of the Moms Club. I was the president of the sorority alumni group. I was vice president on the homeowners association board. So I was doing all this stuff. But if you ask me if I was happy doing those things, if you ask my husband if I was happy doing those things, the answer is going to be a
Yeah.
big fat no. But
Right.
it was fine. It was fine, and it
Right.
allowed me to stay home with my kids, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. I love those
Sure.
people more than anything. But it wasn't fine. It was actually kind of soul crushing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were involved because that's deeply ingrained in who you are to be involved in things. And it
Yeah,
gave you a way to, again, like to talk to humans and have interaction. Not that your kids aren't humans. I talk to adults and
adults,
have,
I get you.
right, have, interaction, but it wasn't right. It wasn't feeding your soul. It was busy work kind of.
Yeah,
You did bring up that you were in charge of your sorority alumni, so I have to ask now what sorority it was.
Kappa Alpha Theta.
Okay, all right, Alpha Chi Omega here. Just
Ah, my daughter is a Delta Gamma at the University of Alabama.
okay, big Greek school.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your husband got laid off, and then you had the opportunity to go back
Mhm.
at this like sounds like um,
The
amazing
timing was
opportunity.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timing was great. But then 2008 hit. There was an acquisition that the company had made that didn't work out as well as it should have. So I had to let my team go. And I knew when I let my team go that I needed to start looking for something else. And
Hmm.
luckily, because I ran a team of recruiters, one of the guys that I let go landed at a company called BMC Software in Houston. And he called me up and he said, look, I know you're probably a little concerned for your role right now. And I know that you want to get back into technology. So I've got this technical sales position at BMC. I just want you to to try. And I thought, this will be good because this is just a way for me to practice because I'm going to have to start interviewing, and I hadn't had to interview since I graduated from college practically.
Hmm.
So I'll practice. I'll get some skills when it comes to interacting with people in an interview situation. And I ended up really practicing interviewing. I think I had 15 interviews with BMC because
Hmm.
I didn't have the background that they were looking for. I'd never been in sales before, but I had something that they needed, and that was kind of a charisma. And they
Yeah.
needed somebody who had passion, and I did. And so they hired me.
I think you bring up a really interesting point here with what you just said. And that is, and I think this happens especially with women, but all genders, that people shy away from, well, I don't have all the qualifications that they're looking for or that they say they want. So I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
Like I'm not
Yeah, I
even going to put
definitely
my
did
hat
not
into the
have.
ring.
Yeah. And I know I was up against two other people who both had background in the product line, background as technical pre-sales, but the 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 man who hired me, um, just a great human being. He said, "Look, I know I can teach you how to spell ITSM, which is the product line that I was selling, but I can't teach you charisma. I can't teach you
Mhm.
presentation skills. Those types of things you have to come with." And so that's what I did, and that's how I got the job. But it did take 15 interviews because everybody's looking at my resume and like, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her.
Right, right. And you probably didn't have as much pressure on yourself as you might have because you were kind of like, well, I'm just doing this for practice and
Exactly.
it makes it like that's how it should be, right? Like that in every interview whether um you think you're going to get it or not. Like it's just a
Hmm.
competition.
It is just a conversation.
But we put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right.
Yeah.
And that's usually
Yeah,
when we get it
and
wrong.
exactly. Exactly. My daughter interviewed for a position in the Panhellenic organization at the University of Alabama, and she hyped herself up so much and she prepped so much. She walked in and she said the wrong position that she was interviewing for, and it just broke her spirit. She
Mm,
didn't get it. She got a different position, and it's great for her. But to your point, you put so much pressure on yourself, and then that's when it goes wrong.
yeah. Yeah. So you ended up getting that job. Um,
Mhm.
and then what where I know you mentioned when we talked about you need to incorporate humor into what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Because
funny.
go ahead.
I've got a reputation's not the right word, but it has to be funny. And when you're in a sales role like I am now, because I moved from that technical sales role and I run the Americas for the product line, so it's kind of a big change. But you have to be able to laugh, and you have to be able to engage people. And the best way to engage people is through humor. And not self-deprecating humor. I'm not a fan
Right.
of self-deprecating humor, but just good old-fashioned silliness. Um, just being able to get people to open up more by making them laugh.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of who I am.
Have you found that's helped you make sales?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be visiting a customer tomorrow, and part of why they like me so much and why they continue to expand the software that they're using is because I make them laugh. And I mean, it seems silly, but you just have to be human. And when I see a salesperson who's reading off a script or who is just mechanical in every way, they tend to not get the level of success that somebody who can talk naturally, somebody who can make you laugh, somebody who can get you to open up. It's like two completely diametrically opposed types of salespeople. And the ones who are more human are the ones who tend to make better sales.
Which makes sense because people want to do business with people you've heard the know, like, and trust, but it really comes down
Mhm.
to do I like you?
Yeah. Well, people don't buy software. They buy software from people they like.
Yeah. Right. Right. And if I as a let's say I'm a customer and I like interacting with you because you make me laugh, I don't care what the other person like right, people want to
It,
and they want to laugh. I think this has always been true, but I think it's even more true now because everybody takes themselves so seriously. Or they want to come
yes.
across as that anyway in the business world.
Yes. Yeah. And if you take yourself too seriously, it's real obvious real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we our work world, you tell me, is becoming more human, especially with the younger generations coming up because they're not willing to be somebody different at work than they are at home.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. As the parent of four young adults, ages 18 to 23, they want to be able to be authentic, and their friends want to be able to be authentic. And that's what they expect when they go into the work world is, I get to bring me with me to work.
Yeah.
And the most successful people that I've worked with have always been authentic. And you know that you're talking to a really decent human being who wants to be seen as a human and not as something better than. That's
Hmm.
always a concern in leadership. I see people in leadership who, and I saw this in some other organizations that I worked for. I took a little hiatus from BMC, had a couple of not so fun jobs, and what I saw from the leaders who were inauthentic, they wanted to believe they were above the other folks, and that's not something that makes for a good leader and a good organization. And when I look at BMC, the leadership is very authentic. And you know
Yeah.
that. And they don't believe that they're better than somebody who's coding software or somebody who's in pre-sales. They understand that we're all part of a team, and they bring that authenticity to everybody on the team. And it's really refreshing to work in an organization like that.
Yeah, I just heard recently somebody was talking about leadership and saying that true leaders are the way they lead, you don't necessarily know who they are. Like you could walk into a room and the team is there, but you don't know who the leader is because everybody has been, um, given the opportunity to show up as a leader in their
Hmm.
own way.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah. Has your use of humor ever like backfired or not been what you were like, oh, that didn't, I wasn't expecting it to go that way?
Yeah, there was one situation. It was kind of funny because it was I was presenting to the board of directors, and the CEO at the time had gone to the University of Texas. I went to the greatest university on the planet, which is Texas A&M, and we have a rivalry. And
Yes.
it was when Johnny Manziel was
Uh-huh.
becoming the Heisman Trophy winner, and we're in front of the board of directors. It was before we were getting started, and I said, "Hey, Bob, I got to show you something I learned this week." And he said, "What?" And I did like the Heisman pose, and everybody laughed. And it was before the meeting got started. It was,
Yeah.
but then afterwards, the HR leader at the time came to me and said that it was wholly inappropriate. And I said, okay, agree to disagree. Don't think it was inappropriate for me to make a joke about the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
And, but, I was taken aback. And I actually asked some other folks who were in that meeting, I just want to understand, was that inappropriate? And of course, the answer was no, it wasn't. But I think it was a kind of I'm not sure the right word for it, but maybe like a power play
Uh-huh.
where I need to make sure you don't do that. She wasn't in charge of HR for all that long, honestly, but it was just that took me it really shocked me, and I was very upset afterwards. And
Yeah.
I realize
Yeah.
now, yeah, there's something else at play. There was a different dynamic at play there. Had nothing to do with me.
Right. Which is, again, often the case, right? The other person's issue has nothing to do with you and everything to do
Yeah.
with them. And
Yep.
understanding that
Absolutely.
is like, oh, okay, I can move past this instead of ruminating on it,
Hmm.
which it sounds like you did spend a couple minutes doing that. I would have done the same thing, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, realizing that it's not, is more about them than it is about you.
Yep.
I would have laughed at that joke too, or that
Oh,
comment.
he thought it was funny. He thought it was funny.
Yes. Yeah. So going back to, the show is fine is a four-letter word, and a time when things were fine. You were talking about that the time when you were at home was the time when you were fine, but not fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you brought it up a little bit before talking about, when you're around these little humans all day, and you're doing all the things that you do when you stay at home. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's, you know, I would never trade the time I spent with my kids. My kids are actually a lot of fun, and they've always been a lot of fun. Even
Yeah.
when they were little tiny, they were a lot of fun. But actually the other people that I had to deal with, so the parents at school, it's not fun to have to go in and deal with a parent whose child has bullied the crap out of your kid.
Yeah.
It's not fun to deal with a group of moms who are in this moms club that's supposed to be supportive, and then the backbiting and the gossip and those things, just it's not fine. you know
Yeah.
it's just not. And but when you're in the thick of it and you've got four little kids who are under the age of 5, um, you just kind of do it.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm super thankful that Steve Papermaster had reached out to me and asked me to join Engineera back when he did. That was a true saving. I mean, from a financial standpoint, it probably saved us from a lot of trouble
Hmm.
in the long run.
Yeah. Do you believe that things happen for a reason?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They do. I try and teach my kids that, especially like my daughter, when she didn't get that one role,
Hmm.
she was upset. And I said, it happens for a reason. You're going to get something else. And she got a really good VP position in Delta Gamma. So, it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And, but it's hard to teach them that, because if something goes wrong, there's a lot of, I call it stick with itness, that's missing in a lot of the younger professionals that I'm dealing with. My
Hmm.
kids, luckily, they do stick with it. They do. But when you say, everything happens for a reason, stick with it. Keep going. Move
Yeah.
forward. There's something else out there.
Yeah, you just use the phrase when something goes wrong, and I feel like it's I don't know that anything ever goes wrong. It doesn't necessarily go the way you expected it to, but is it
That's a good
wrong?
point.
Because if everything happens for a reason, then there's a reason it went that way instead of the way you wanted it to or expected it to.
Right. That's a very good point. Yeah. I look at everything that's happened that I didn't want to happen in my life,
Yeah.
or that I wish hadn't happened. But now I realize, looking back 52 years, everything happened for a reason, and everything got me to where I am today.
Yeah, well, hindsight is 2020, but it's not so easy to put together all the connect all the dots when you're looking forward. You can only do it when you're looking
Hmm.
behind.
Yep. Valid
So
point.
I think we have to look at our lives as like as we're looking forward, obviously, because we can't live in reverse.
Hmm.
To be open to, okay, like what's the next adventure that's coming along? So, which leads me to the question for you, Katie, what is the next adventure that's coming along?
Well, empty nesting is hard. And we're only a couple months into it. We're still trying to figure it out, but I think it's time for us. We were only married 18 months before we had our first kid. So if you think about that, for 23 years straight, we had a kid at home.
Hmm.
And so now we're looking at, what hobbies do we pick up? Um, my husband doesn't know this yet, but he's getting into ham radio for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Hopefully
so
he
he doesn't
doesn't
know
listen
that
to this
yet.
podcast before Christmas.
I won't let him. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, maybe we join a trap shooting league. We're just looking, like, how do we take advantage of the fact that we're newlyweds again?
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, we are newlyweds again, but we're much better funded this time around.
Right, right, right.
So, what do we do? What do we do with that? And so that's really it, is exploring hobbies and how we're going to move forward and be empty nesters.
That's fun. Like that's something
Yeah.
that, I know a lot of people dread that empty nest. I have friends on both sides. I don't have any kids, so I can't speak for myself, but
Yeah.
some who have dreaded the children leaving because what is my life now?
Yeah.
And others who have a much more optimistic view of it of, okay, who can I become now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had fun over the last couple months, and like we went to the apple orchard a couple weeks ago, or not the apple, the corn maze, but
Corn
still,
maze.
you know,
Okay.
yeah, just the things we used to do with our kids, we do now as re-newlyweds, I'll call us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's great to have that opportunity to expand what we've done all these years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any travel plans?
So we are going to do a trip to the Texas Hill Country and
Okay.
drive through all those cool little historic Texas towns. Um, we got Parents Weekend, two Parents Weekends next year in March and
Okay.
April, so we got to do those too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And you're still working.
Oh yeah, yep. Still
Yeah.
working, still traveling for work, and enjoying it too. I absolutely love my job, and I'm, like I said at the beginning, very lucky to be here.
Yeah.
But I worked for it too.
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What lessons are you, what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say excited, but that's not the word. Um, what lessons would you most like to instill in the people who work with you or work for you, who are part of your team?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is a fear of failure is really not a good thing.
Hmm.
And being able to, I say jump without a parachute is important. And you've got to be willing to take risks, both professionally and personally. And I've done, both ways. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And you have to sit down and say, okay, what did I do that caused the wrong outcome or a different outcome than I expected? And what do I do in the future? And you learn from it. But if you never jump because you're so scared,
Hmm.
you're never going to get to see the benefits. You're never going to get to see the rewards.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because yeah, the people who don't take risks don't get the rewards.
Yeah.
They don't,
Fear is another four-letter word, by the way.
yes, it is. I appreciate you bringing that up. It absolutely is. Um, yeah. And how many people go through life being afraid to do whatever it is that their heart really wants to do,
Yep,
or because somebody else told them they can't, or because they don't want to disappoint somebody, or whatever. Like, there's a whole list of reasons why. And to me,
exactly.
none of them are valid.
Yep, yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. This has been such a great conversation. But we're
I've
not
enjoyed
done
it.
yet. Yeah. Two more questions. One is okay, wait, no, I've got three questions because you had mentioned that that you wanted to be Gilda Radner when we were talking about your humor.
I did, yes.
And that
Yeah, I wanted to be on
yeah.
Saturday Night Live.
Have you been to a taping of Saturday Night Live?
No, I was only ever in New York one Saturday night where it was actually Maroon 5 was the musical guest. I forget who the host was.
Oh,
And
that would have
we
been a
just didn't
great
get there
show.
in time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't get there in time. So it's disappointing. But yeah, it's always been a dream. I've got characters that I've made up. I mean, I'm a little old now, but um, maybe I do improv classes.
Yes. In fact, as you're talking, I'm like, I need to introduce you to Lisa David Olson. She was a past guest on the show, and she is also a humorist. And yeah, I will make that introduction. Who would
Thanks.
you like to see as a comedian, or like who is your favorite, um, comedian?
These days, probably Nate Bargatze.
Okay,
He's
his name
the,
keeps
the
coming
one with
up
the
for yeah,
beard.
yeah.
Yeah,
His
he's
name
he's
keeps coming up.
hysterical.
Yes. Have you seen him?
No, no. I've got a that's the other thing that we do, by the way, is newly wetters. We go see live music when we can and live performances. So I got to see when his tour is bringing him up here because I'd love to see
Yeah.
him in live. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun. Cool. Okay. So since we were we touched on the music and the Maroon 5 came up and yeah. I actually just spent this weekend when my friends were here. We went to see the Charlotte Symphony doing the music of Queen.
Oh, that
It
sounds like a
was
good show.
it was really, really fantastic. And yeah,
That
lots of fun. What is the song that you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy?
So I do Orange Theory Fitness, and we do this thing twice a year called Dry Try. So every time at the end of the Dry Try, so you row 2,000 meters, you do 300 floor exercises, and then you run a 5K. So every year at the end of my 5K, they start blasting the Eye of the Tiger, and that's what gets me over the finish line.
I love it. I
It's
love that
cliche,
that's your
but
song. I don't love I love that you do this challenge. I would not be participating in that, but but I appreciate and admire that you do it.
yeah, it's
So
fun.
I'll be cheering you on. Yeah, when's
Thanks.
the next one?
March.
Okay.
Be the end of March.
All right. Excellent. And then lastly, if someone wants to continue a conversation with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. So it's just LinkedIn, and I think it's /Katie Carty Tierney.
I will put a link
Pretty easy to
to
find.
that in the show notes. Yeah, that's where I found you. So
Yeah,
go find Katie on LinkedIn. I'll have the link
yeah.
in the show notes. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Thank you so much.